Have you ever met someone who'd rather stay home reading a book than go to the hottest party in town? Someone who notices every tiny detail about how you're feeling, even when you're trying to hide it. Someone who gets genuinely excited about discussing the meaning of life at 2 a.m.? Well, you've probably encountered an INFJ. And trust me, these rare souls have some pretty unusual things they go to the mat for. Today, we're diving deep into the mysterious world of INFJs, those enigmatic personalities that make up less than 2% of the population. But here's the thing, what drives an INFJ isn't what you'd expect. Sure, they care about world peace and helping others, but there are some downright strange things that'll make an INFJ fight tooth and nail. And I mean really strange. So buckle up, because we're about to explore 7 bizarre things that INFJs would literally die for. Some might surprise you, others might make you think, that's totally me. And a few might leave you scratching your head wondering how anyone could care that much about something so specific. 1. The sacred right to process information in complete silence. Let's start with something that might sound simple but is absolutely crucial to an INFJ's survival: their need for processing time in total silence. Now, I'm not talking about just wanting some quiet time to relax. No. This goes way deeper than that. Picture this. An INFJ has just experienced something emotionally intense. Maybe a difficult conversation, a complex movie, or even just a really meaningful book. Their brain immediately goes into what I like to call deep dive mode. They need to take apart every single piece of information, examine it from 17 different angles, connect it to past experiences, and figure out how it fits into their understanding of the world. But here's where it gets interesting, and where other personality types just don't get it. This process can't happen with any distractions, not even tiny ones. That background music you barely notice? It's like nails on a chalkboard to an INFJ trying to process. The gentle hum of conversation from the next room might as well be a construction site. INFJs will literally rearrange their entire lives to protect this processing time. They'll wake up at 5 a.m. just to have an hour of silence before the world starts making noise. They'll drive the long way home to get those extra 20 minutes of quiet thinking time. Some will even end relationships if their partner can't understand why they need this sacred silence. And when someone interrupts this process, oh boy, you'd think someone just insulted their mother. An INFJ in the middle of deep processing who gets interrupted might look calm on the outside, but inside, they're planning your demise. Well, not really. They're too nice for that, but they're definitely not happy. This isn't just a preference, folks. It's like oxygen to them. Take away an INFJ's processing time, and you'll watch them slowly wither away. They become irritable, anxious, and completely unable to make decisions. It's honestly painful to watch. 2. Authentic, deep conversations over small talk, even if it kills the mood. Here's something that'll make you laugh and cry at the same time. INFJs would rather endure physical pain than engage in meaningless small talk. I'm not exaggerating. These people will literally sacrifice social comfort, professional networking opportunities, and even romantic prospects to avoid talking about the weather. You know how most people can chat about nothing for hours? INFJs can't do it. They physically can't. Their brains reject surface-level conversation like a bad organ transplant. Ask an INFJ how their weekend was, and they'll either give you a one-word answer or launch into a philosophical discussion about how time is a social construct. But here's what's really wild. They'll die for the chance to have a real conversation. And I mean really die. An INFJ will stay up until 3 a.m. talking to someone who wants to discuss their deepest fears, wildest dreams, or most controversial opinions. They'll cancel other plans, ignore their basic needs, and push through exhaustion just to keep that authentic connection going. I once knew an INFJ who missed their flight because they got into a deep conversation with a stranger at the airport about the nature of consciousness. Was it worth it? According to them, absolutely. They said it was the most meaningful 2 hours they'd had in months. This creates some pretty awkward social situations. Picture an INFJ at a networking event, surrounded by people discussing market trends and quarterly reports. While everyone else is playing the game, making connections, and advancing their careers, the INFJ is standing in the corner looking like they'd rather be literally anywhere else. They can't fake interest in things that don't matter to them, and they won't pretend to care about surface-level topics. But put that same INFJ in a room with someone who wants to talk about what keeps them up at night, their biggest regrets, or their vision for changing the world. Suddenly, they come alive. They'll talk for hours, ask incredibly insightful questions, and form connections that last for decades. 3. The perfect environment for maximum productivity. Now, this one's going to sound absolutely crazy to anyone who isn't an INFJ, but these folks will move heaven and earth to create their perfect working environment. And when I say perfect, I mean perfect down to the smallest detail. We're talking about people who'll spend weeks finding exactly the right chair. Not just comfortable, the right height, the right back support, the right armrest position. They'll test 17 different desk lamps to find the one that gives off just the right amount of warm light without creating glare on their computer screen. But it gets weirder. INFJs often have very specific requirements about temperature, airflow, background noise levels, and even the direction they're facing while working. Some need to face a window but not be directly in sunlight. Others need to have their back to a wall so they can see who's coming and going. Many can't work if there's any possibility of being interrupted or observed. I know an INFJ who rearranges their entire home office every few months because their productivity needs change with the seasons. Winter setup is different from summer setup. They've got different lighting configurations for creative work versus analytical tasks. Different plants, different colors, different everything. And here's the kicker. They'll sacrifice almost anything to maintain this environment. They'll turn down promotions if it means giving up their ideal workspace. They'll work longer hours for less money if they can control their environment. Some have even quit good jobs because they couldn't get the workspace conditions they needed to be productive. Other people think this is ridiculous. They're like, just deal with it, it's just a room. But to an INFJ, their environment directly impacts their ability to think, create, and produce good work. Put them in the wrong environment, and their productivity drops to basically zero. Put them in their ideal setup, and they can move mountains. This extends beyond just workspaces too. INFJs will fight for their ideal living environment with the same intensity. They need their homes to feel like sanctuaries, calm, organized, and reflective of their inner world. They'd rather live in a tiny apartment that feels right than a mansion that doesn't match their vibe. 4. Protecting their loved one's emotions, sometimes to their own detriment. Okay, this one's going to hit you right in the feelings. INFJs have this supernatural ability to sense other people's emotions, and they will literally sacrifice their own well-being to protect the people they care about from emotional pain. I'm not talking about normal empathy here. This is like emotional superpowers gone haywire. An INFJ can walk into a room and immediately know that someone is upset, even if that person is trying their hardest to hide it. They can sense tension between people who think they're doing a great job of pretending everything's fine. They pick up on emotional undercurrents that other people don't even realize exist. And once they sense that someone they care about is hurting, game over. The INFJ's entire mission in life becomes making that person feel better. They'll drop everything, cancel their own plans, and pour all their energy into helping their loved one work through whatever they're dealing with. But here's where it gets problematic, and why I say they die for this. INFJs will absorb other people's negative emotions like emotional sponges. They'll take on their friends' anxiety, their partner's depression, their family members' anger. They can't help it. They feel everything so deeply that other people's pain becomes their own pain. I've seen INFJs make themselves physically ill worrying about someone else's problems. They'll lose sleep, stop eating, and completely neglect their own needs because they're so focused on helping others. They'll put themselves in harmful situations if they think it'll protect someone they love from getting hurt. The really wild part is that they often do this without the other person even knowing. An INFJ might spend weeks carefully managing a situation to prevent their friend from experiencing disappointment. They'll have difficult conversations, make sacrifices, and deal with stress, all behind the scenes, just to spare someone else from emotional pain. This can destroy relationships, ironically. Partners get frustrated because the INFJ won't let them handle their own problems. Friends feel suffocated by the INFJ's need to fix everything. But the INFJ can't stop themselves. Seeing people they care about in pain is literally unbearable to them. 5. Their personal value system, no compromises, ever. Here's where INFJs get really intense and where they'll absolutely go to war. These people have deeply held personal values, and they will not compromise on them. Not for money, not for relationships, not for career advancement, not for anything. But here's what makes it strange. Their values are often really specific and sometimes seem random to other people. Sure, they've got the big ones like honesty and kindness, but they'll also have weirdly specific moral positions that they'll defend to the death. For example, an INFJ might believe that it's morally wrong to waste food, and they'll literally panic if they have to throw away leftovers. They might believe that everyone deserves to be heard, so they'll insist on letting the most annoying person in the meeting finish their rambling story. They might believe that keeping your word is sacred, so they'll drive 3 hours in a snowstorm to keep a casual commitment. These aren't just preferences, they're core parts of who the INFJ is as a person. Ask them to violate one of their values, and you might as well ask them to cut off their own arm. They physically can't do it. Their conscience won't let them. This creates some pretty dramatic situations. INFJs will quit jobs rather than work for companies whose values don't align with theirs. They'll end friendships with people who repeatedly act against their moral code. They'll turn down opportunities that would be great for them but would require them to compromise their principles. I know an INFJ who turned down a 6-figure job because the company had a policy they disagreed with. The policy didn't even affect them directly. It was about how the company treated entry-level employees. But they couldn't bring themselves to work for an organization that they felt was acting unfairly. Other people think this is stupid. They're like, just take the money and change things from the inside. But INFJs can't compartmentalize like that. If they're part of something, they're responsible for it. If they benefit from something that goes against their values, they feel complicit. This extends to smaller daily decisions too. An INFJ might refuse to shop at certain stores, eat at certain restaurants, or use certain products because of their values. They'll research companies' ethical practices before making purchases. They'll drive out of their way to support businesses that align with their beliefs. 6. The need for meaningful work that aligns with their purpose. This one's a big one, folks. INFJs don't just want jobs. They need callings. They need to feel like their work matters, like they're making a difference, like they're contributing something meaningful to the world. And they'll make enormous sacrifices to find and keep that meaningful work. But here's where it gets tricky. What counts as meaningful to an INFJ is often very personal and specific. It's not enough for the work to help people in general. It has to align with their particular vision of how they want to impact the world. Some INFJs find meaning in helping individuals one-on-one. Others need to work on big systemic changes. Some want to create beautiful things that inspire people. Others want to solve complex problems that make life better for everyone. There's no one-size-fits-all definition of meaningful work for INFJs. But whatever their particular version of meaningful work is, they'll die for the chance to do it. They'll take massive pay cuts to work for organizations whose missions they believe in. They'll go back to school in their 40s to change careers. They'll start their own businesses with no money and no safety net because they have an idea they think can change the world. I've seen INFJs turn down prestigious, high-paying jobs because the work didn't feel meaningful to them. They'd rather struggle financially than spend 40 hours a week doing something they don't believe in. This drives their families crazy, especially if they have kids to support or bills to pay. But here's the thing about INFJs and work. If they don't find meaning in what they do, they become miserable. And I don't mean slightly unhappy. I mean deeply, profoundly miserable. They start questioning everything about their lives. They lose motivation, energy, and hope. They begin to feel like they're wasting their potential and not living up to their purpose. On the flip side, when an INFJ finds work that truly aligns with their sense of purpose, they become unstoppable. They'll work ridiculous hours without complaining. They'll tackle impossible challenges with enthusiasm. They'll stick with difficult projects long after other people would have given up. The really interesting part is that INFJs often create their own definitions of meaningful work. They'll find ways to make almost any job more meaningful by focusing on how it helps people or contributes to something bigger. A receptionist INFJ might focus on how they're making people's days brighter. An accountant INFJ might focus on how they're helping small businesses succeed. 7. Time and space for creative expression. Last but definitely not least, INFJs will fight tooth and nail for their right to creative expression. And I'm not just talking about obviously creative people like artists and writers. Every INFJ has some form of creative outlet, and they need it like they need air to breathe. The thing about INFJ creativity is that it's often deeply personal and connected to their inner world. They're not creating to impress other people or to make money, though those things are nice. They're creating because they have complex thoughts and feelings that need to come out somehow. For some INFJs, this might be traditional art, painting, writing, music. But for others, it might be something unexpected. I know INFJs who express their creativity through cooking, gardening, organizing, even the way they decorate their homes. The specific medium doesn't matter as much as having some way to externalize their inner world. But here's what's really important. INFJs need uninterrupted time and space for this creative expression. They can't just squeeze it in during commercial breaks or knock it out quickly before bed. They need chunks of time where they can dive deep into their creative process without worrying about deadlines or interruptions. And they'll rearrange their entire lives to protect this time. They'll wake up early, stay up late, or use their lunch breaks. They'll turn down social invitations, skip other activities, and make sacrifices to ensure they have time to create. The space is important too. INFJs often need a dedicated creative space, even if it's just a corner of their bedroom or a spot at the kitchen table. They need somewhere they can leave their projects out, where their supplies are organized exactly how they like them, where they feel inspired and focused. Take away an INFJ's creative outlet, and you'll watch them slowly lose their spark. They become restless, irritable, and disconnected from themselves. They might not even realize what's wrong at first. They just know something's missing. But give them time and space to create, and they come alive. They're happier, more energetic, and more like themselves. Their creativity feeds their soul in a way that nothing else can. Why these things matter so much to INFJs? Now, you might be wondering why INFJs are so intense about these particular things. What makes them different from other personality types? Why would they literally die for things that other people might consider minor preferences? The answer lies in how INFJs are wired. Their brains work differently than most people's brains. They process information more deeply, feel emotions more intensely, and are constantly trying to understand the bigger picture of everything around them. INFJs are also what psychologists call highly sensitive persons. This means they're more sensitive to stimuli like noise, light, and emotional energy. Things that other people can easily ignore or adapt to can be overwhelming for INFJs. Additionally, INFJs have what's called dominant introverted intuition. This means they're constantly taking in information and looking for patterns, meanings, and connections. They need time and space to process all this information, and they need their environment to support their unique way of thinking. The cost of being an INFJ. Here's the tough truth about being an INFJ. It's not always easy. These 7 things they die for, they often put INFJs at odds with the rest of the world. Society values extroversion, small talk, and flexibility. It rewards people who can work in any environment, who don't need special conditions to be productive, who can separate their personal values from their professional lives. INFJs struggle in this kind of world. They're often misunderstood, labeled as difficult or high maintenance. They miss out on opportunities because they can't or won't compromise on the things that matter most to them. But here's the thing, these same traits that make life challenging for INFJs are also their greatest strengths. Their need for deep processing leads to incredible insights. Their authenticity creates meaningful relationships. Their environmental sensitivity helps them create beauty and comfort for others. Their strong values make them natural leaders and advocates. Their search for meaningful work leads to innovations and positive changes. Their creativity adds beauty and meaning to the world. Living and working with INFJs. If you have INFJs in your life, as friends, partners, family members, or coworkers, understanding these 7 things can help you build better relationships with them. Don't take it personally when an INFJ needs alone time to process. They're not rejecting you, they're taking care of their mental health so they can be fully present when they're with you. Try to engage in deeper conversations when possible. Ask them about their thoughts, feelings, dreams, and ideas. You'll be amazed at the insights they have to share. Respect their need for the right environment. If an INFJ says they can't focus with background noise, believe them. If they need their desk arranged a certain way, let them do it. Support their desire to help others, but also remind them to take care of themselves. INFJs often need permission to prioritize their own needs. Don't ask them to compromise their values, even for small things. What seems minor to you might be a big deal to them. Encourage their search for meaningful work. Even if you don't understand why they turned down a good opportunity, respect their decision. Give them time and space for creativity. Even if their creative pursuits don't make sense to you, they're essential for the INFJ's well-being. Conclusion. So there you have it, 7 strange things that INFJs would literally die for. From their need for silent processing time to their dedication to meaningful work, from their perfect environments to their creative expression, these rare personalities have some pretty specific requirements for happiness and fulfillment. Are these requirements unusual? Absolutely. Are they difficult to understand if you're not an INFJ? Definitely. But are they worth respecting and supporting? Without a doubt. INFJs make up a small percentage of the population, but they have a big impact on the world. They're the counselors who help people through their darkest moments, the artists who create beauty that moves us, the activists who fight for justice, the innovators who solve complex problems, and the friends who truly understand us. Understanding what INFJs need and why they need it helps us appreciate the unique gifts they bring to our lives and our world. So the next time you meet an INFJ who seems a little intense about their alone time, their work environment, or their creative projects, remember that these aren't just quirks. These are the things that help them be their best selves and contribute their unique gifts to the world. And if you're an INFJ reading this, know that your needs aren't strange or excessive. They're part of what makes you who you are. Don't apologize for needing what you need. The world needs what you have to offer, and that means honoring the things that help you thrive. Whether you're an INFJ yourself or someone who wants to better understand the INFJs in your life, I hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights. These remarkable individuals might have some unusual requirements, but trust me, they're worth it.